Hi, I'm Mr. Nance, and we've been talking about The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This time, I'm going to talk a little bit about the style it's written in, Romanticism, and what Romanticism means, and how it's important to understanding what's going on in the book. Romanticism is more complicated than it sounds. You might think of hearts and flowers and Valentine's Day when you think of Romanticism. You might think of romance novels or something silly like that. But Romanticism as an idea and as a period is much more important than that and much more complex than that. It's a reaction to the previous time period, the Neoclassical time period. And it's also still extremely relevant today. It still influences most of our literature and most of our ideas. One of the best ways to understand Romanticism is by comparing it to the time period before, the Neoclassics. So let's look at how the Neoclassics worked and what the Romantics did to react to those ideas. Most significantly, the Neoclassic time period, or the 18th century, was the age of reason. It was when everyone valued logic above all else. On the other hand, the Romantics thought this was silly. They didn't like logic, they didn't like reason. Instead, they valued emotion. You can see this throughout Romanticism. And it's not just love that they value, although love certainly is a very nice emotion, and plenty strong. They also value hate, terror, and any other kind of emotion like that. Okay, so Romantics believed much more in the heart than the head. But not only did they believe in the heart, they also believed in things that couldn't be explained, things that couldn't be attributed to logic. Whereas the Neoclassics believed in the order and structure of the universe, the Romantics liked to think of things that didn't function according to the laws of nature, things that were supernatural. Did I mention Romanticism still affects us today? Well, we still like the supernatural. We like ghosts and goblins and zombies and vampires and all of that stuff. The Neoclassics were also interested in the concept of humanism, how important humanity is to the world, and the significance that humanity leaves upon the world. All the wonderful things that humans can do. On the other hand, Romantics weren't so interested in humanity. In fact, they kind of wished that nothing man-made would ever show up. They preferred nature, the natural world, to man, as the Neoclassics called it. To continue this idea, the Neoclassics were interested in the concepts of society. But the Romantics, because they didn't really like people very much, tended to talk about man as an individual. In fact, the main romantic hero is usually highly misunderstood. Nobody likes him, nobody loves him, he's all alone, he has great ideas, but nobody ever believes in him, nobody will listen to him, and so he wanders around miserable because nobody likes him. That's fine, because remember, we like emotion. Nobody understands me. I'm all alone. It may seem obvious that this leads us to believe in the concept that the Neoclassics loved urban settings, whereas the Romantics prefer rural. Rural settings, rural people. Usually the hero is a farmhand or something like that, especially in American literature. Howdy! The Neoclassics, through their connection to reason and order and their desire for logic, tried frequently to, whenever there was a problem, fix their problems. Problem solve. On the other hand, the Romantics just preferred what's called escapism, an extremely important concept in Romanticism. Basically, it's running away through any kind of mean. Sometimes through a supernatural mean, like flying away through the air. Sometimes it's through getting really emotional and killing yourself. All kinds of ways of escaping, but the Romantics always want to get away from their life.
I hate this! I'm out of here!
You might notice that both of these believe that there could be a better place. That sense of escapism means let me get away from this bad place and get to a good place. Fixing problems means, hey, this place could be a better place. It's interesting to note that both of our time periods have a strong sense of idealism. Something that will die after Romanticism when we move into realism. Idealism doesn't hold up super well in the world because, well, the world isn't a perfect place. But the Romantics believe the world could be a perfect place. Either they end happily ever after in a perfect place, or they end horribly and die miserably, which is great. But they could have lived happily ever after if only one little thing had changed. They still believe in the happily ever after, they just believe they missed. The Neoclassics believe that they can fix the world's problems and understand the world better through rationality, and therefore make things better and make things ideal. One last idea. The Neoclassics were very much interested in their own world and in what was going on in their world. So they were interested in the current. Oh, you can't read that. The current and the local. On the other hand, the Romantics were much more interested in the far away, the distant. And so Romantics particularly were interested in the medieval time period. On the other hand, the Neoclassics liked what was going on in their society today. They did like something old called the classical time period. But it's because the classics were full of rationality and full of great ideas and thoughts, whereas the medieval was full of superstition and emotion and knights in shining armor out in the rural, escaping from various ideas and striving for idealism. The Middle Ages really appealed to the Romantics, whereas the Greeks and Romans appealed to the Neoclassics. Okay. So, the Neoclassics, too fixated on their progress and their ideas, their intellectualism, and too grounded in the classics, were very reasonable, logical, rational. They believed in the order of the universe, the laws of nature. They believed in humanity. They believed in society. They focused on the urban, and they tried to fix the world's problems through their logic, with this idealistic perception. On the other hand, the Romantics reacted against all of this, saying, we're sick of rationalizing everything, we're sick of trying to think our way through things, let's feel our way through. And so they were very fixated on emotion. They loved things that couldn't be explained, and so they were really into the supernatural. They believed that nature was powerful and great and full of all kinds of whatever. They also were kind of supernatural about their nature. They believed in the individual, all alone, misunderstood, no one loves me. They loved things that were rural and were far away from everyone else. They wanted to escape from the world they were trapped in and get away. They believed that everything could be better, if only, if only. And they preferred stories that are far, far away, set in far-off times, particularly ones that are medieval. So why do Romantics still appeal to us? Well, they're really very exciting. And there's something to be said about going with your heart and trying to understand things through your feelings. If all you ever did was think things through and be logical, life would be pretty dry, pretty boring, and pretty uneventful. On the other hand, if you live through your emotions and you believe that there might be something more there than what your eyes can see, and if you can actually appreciate the world around you and drink it all in, even if people don't get you for it, even if people run you off, you can still run away and you can believe in things that are far away and exciting. Isn't that kind of what most stories are about now these days? Romanticism still influences us a lot. Romantic ideas still permeate our literature today. Think about Harry Potter, The Fault in Our Stars, Hunger Games, Narnia. All of these books are full of these same list of things. Emotion, supernatural, nature, the individual who's misunderstood. Rural escapism, desiring something better than this life. Idealism, believing that you can be better than you really are. And things that are far away and distant, or a desire for them. All of these books and many, many more that we read every day, they tug at our hearts and they make us want to be something more. That's what makes Romanticism fun. It helps you to believe in things. It helps you to hope in things. It helps you to look for things beyond yourself to make the world a little bit more magical. Speaking of romantic novels, this is an excellent romantic novel that you should really buy because I wrote it. That's Romanticism in a nutshell. Next time, I'll talk about the American Romantics and who they were and what they were influenced by, and most importantly, why that makes Nathaniel Hawthorne very important, and The Scarlet Letter a particularly splendid book. I'll see you next time.